Before we begin, I would like to say, of course, kudos and thank yous to the people for whom this would not happen unless they were involved. First, I want to thank my partner in crime, Ms. Capri Smith, the president of SharperMinds Consultants, who is a co-presenter. I also want to thank our gracious host, Pimlico Elementary Middle. We're really thankful for them. This will be the course principal. And special thank yous to Wanda Williams and to Jackie Peterson for all their hard work in putting this together. Tonight we're talking about, there's no ever mean yes, domestic violence exposed. It's an extremely serious topic that impacts all of our communities, irrespective of race, creed, or color. And it's an issue that demands serious answers. And so tonight, we're here to talk about this issue that I'm sure impacts someone that we know. And we're going to see what answers we can come up with, and we're here to share. In that light, I want to just lay the ground rules for this. Needless to say, for such an emotional topic, it can get a little hairy when we're talking about it. We may even disagree, which is fine. But the only way that we can actually learn and grow with each other is, number one, I'm inviting everyone to speak. That's why it's an open forum. We're here to talk. However, I would just suggest, with me being the facilitator, we all speak at one time. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand, and I will acknowledge you and let you know when it is your turn to have the floor. So the way this will work is I will introduce our panelists. Each of them, I'll give the introduction. If you panelists, if you would just very briefly, when I introduce you, 1 or 2 minutes, just a message about domestic violence that you would like to get across to our audience to set us up. Once that happens, I'll start asking questions of our panelists. I'll ask one or maybe all of the panel, and then at that point, it's open. If you have questions of the panel, please feel free, like I said, raise your hand and I'll call one. Okay, any questions so far? Very good. Okay, so we're ready. All right, so let me begin at the beginning. I'd like to start off with this great young gentleman here to my immediate left. I'd like to introduce Mr. Ricky Brunson. He's in the 11th grade, 18 years old, and he attends school at Renaissance Academy. In the future, he'd like to attend the College of Fashion and Design so that he can design, one day, wear his own clothes that he made. And so that people can know his talent, know that he's smart, well-rounded student at the School of Fashion. Everyone, this is Mr. Ricky Brunson. Please welcome. Anything that you wanted to say to start us off?
Y'all hear me?
No. Yes.
No, oh, y'all can't hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me now? Well, basically, while I'm here, I was brought to the attention of my guidance counselor asked me to come in, and what I feel as though domestic violence is basically you and your partner get into a relationship so soon, and y'all really don't know much about each other, and I think it's time to, take your steps towards a relationship. And taking steps, like when I say that, I mean as though getting to know each other instead of speeding up, dating online and stuff. I feel as though that don't work. So it's better to know a person before you really get intimate and really start sharing feelings and the whole 9 yards, to be honest. And what I feel as though that people don't understand about domestic violence is it happens in your own home. Sometimes you might not be able to see it because you're at school or you're busy. It can be when at a young age, and it can basically, come up on you at any time of the day, and you might not know how to handle it, so you might need somebody to talk to. So that somebody can be anybody, somebody that's there to listen to you. Might not have the best advice, but they'll listen to you. So my point of view is just that you need somebody to talk to for far as domestic violence, because I feel as though you can't handle it on your own, because if you one person sitting there being abused by this other person that you think love you or some type of way, really intimate with you, you might not have the best opinion about your situation. You might need some guidance from another person. So basically what I'm saying is you need to get help even if you don't want help. A lot of people don't want help. So help is not always a bad suggestion. Help is sometimes a good suggestion because you might not know what you're going through. It might be an older person or a younger person that can understand what you're going through and that can give you their point of view, and you can share your point of view and some type of way accumulate a solution to solve your problem.
Amen from young brothers. You know, it's amazing, isn't it, how, you know, we can be surprised that you know, forgive me, but it's been said that the young shall lead them. I'd like to introduce our wonderful panelists to Ricky's immediate left. This is Miss Bonita Linkins, excuse me. She has been working for the Howard County government since 1994. Prior to working for Howard County, she served in the United States Army. As an air traffic control. I'm sorry, I had to have a moment, I'm sorry. For the first 4 years working for Howard County, Ms. Linkins was a 911 dispatcher before being accepted to the 1998 Police Academy. After the academy, Ms. Linkins worked patrol for a couple of years before transferring to the Criminal Investigation Bureau as a child abuse detective. Ms. Linkins worked in the discipline for 4 years before being assigned to the Community Resource Office position for the Northern District. During this time, she's been affiliated with several agencies within her county, as well as throughout the state, in the capacity of crime prevention. Ms. Linkins is a recipient of the Governor's Crime Prevention Award, as well as the Governor's Victims Assistant Award. In addition to crime prevention, Ms. Linkins is an assistant recruiter, a member of her department's Critical Incident Stress Management Team, a certified crisis intervention team member, and a volunteer for the Maryland Special Olympics. As a domestic violence survivor, Ms. Linkins is an author currently writing a book entitled Why Did I Stay? Domestic Violence, A Survivor's Story, and continues to serve as a mentor and motivational speaker as an advocate on domestic violence issues. www.whydidistay.com, free plug. Presenting for police academies, domestic violence centers, public schools, and alternative programs for youth throughout the state of Maryland. Ms. Linkins is also an air personality on www.svmixradio.com. I am a frequent visitor. Definitely come go and visit. It gets nice in there. The hottest multimedia station in the world, as the host of the Simply Bonita Show. The most important aspect of Ms. Linkins' life is her 2 wonderful children. Amen to that. Ms. Linkins?
Thank you. Being a survivor of domestic violence, it's easy for me to speak on the topic, knowing that I find that domestic violence is a silent crime because, you know, number one, the victims don't report it, and number two, the people that live around or even perhaps in the household don't report it. But because of the crime of domestic violence not being reported, we find that people, I have to say people because we know that majority of victims are females, but there are males that are also victims. But what we find is that when there aren't people that are strong enough to be able to get out, those people usually perish. Nowadays, we see that people that used to just argue, because of the state of the economy now, we see that those arguments are now going into where they're becoming physical. So they're no longer having words, they're now physical. Now that we're seeing the people that were being physical with each other have taken the next step now to committing homicides and suicide. So domestic violence is that silent killer, and I just hope that if you know somebody that's being abused, that you're reaching out to them, but please understand that you might go to them the first time, they may not do anything. You might go to them the second time, they may not do anything. It might take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times before that victim will actually go and get help. Just don't give up on them. Understand there's different reasons why people stay in domestic violence relationships. It's all different, and it could be because of the money, it could be because of the kids. You just don't know. So if you know somebody who's being abused, just step in and try to see if you can get them some help.
All right, thank you very much. And to Bonita's immediate left, last but certainly not least, is Miss Quisha Hall. She is a self-described dreamer, a daughter, a sister, a mentor, a motivator, and a teacher. Amen for that.
Amen.
LaQuisha Hall is a woman, and much prayer, right? LaQuisha Hall is a woman with a purpose that goes far beyond what is expected of her. Founder of Queendom Tea, a volunteer-powered program devoted to cultivating teenage females, transforming them into positive and provocative ladies. LaQuisha is an award-winning community service leader. After witnessing domestic violence in her childhood and surviving sexual abuse, she actively promotes both causes. A large part of her presentation is devoted to dispelling myths about violence and abuse and sharing recovery options and hope internationally. Currently, LaQuisha is working on finishing her first novel with a tentative release for fall 2011. We'll be praying for that. Okay, thank you. LaQuisha, please.
So I am a survivor of domestic violence as well, but in a different way. I was the child who couldn't stop it, who had to listen and experience the two parents arguing, beating each other, hitting and crying, packing, moving, running, going back, doing it again.
Yeah.
So I understand her viewpoint from a different perspective. It's one of the other parts of that silent crime that was described earlier by Ms. Bonita is the crime of how it affects and hurts the children in the household. And it's often not even discussed that the children are just as much affected as the person who is actually being abused. If you're not aware, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men are the recipients of domestic abuse. 1 in 3 teens of either gender are the recipients of domestic abuse or teen dating violence. The ages for females range mostly between 16 to 24, and of the age when they're primarily targeted by a man and seen as possibly weak enough to allow the abuse to occur. And there's 3 things that I think should happen. I think we need to help people create safety plans. I think we need to continue with education and prevention, because a lot of the time we have forums like this, and as you can see, and I'm not complaining, but there should be more people in this room. There is education out there, but people are not coming to it. And the last thing I think is that we should live by example. A lot of times we tell our kids what they should and shouldn't do, but we don't live that. So they don't know to do it because they model and mimic what they see the adults doing. So the question for this forum was, does no ever mean yes? I think that no means yes when we allow it to continue.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Quisha. Okay, I'm going to get us started with the first question. I was recently in a conversation in which we discussed the title, just as you discussed. And since you talked about the title, I'll throw it to you, Quisha. In this conversation, it was made very clear to me that there is a fine distinction between sexual violence and sexual assault and domestic violence. So I'm going to throw it to you then so that we are clear on what we're talking about here. What is the definition of domestic violence, and what forms can it take and does it take?
I agree that there is a slight difference. A lot of times domestic violence is seen as just the physical aspect of being hit, beaten. It could also involve emotional abuse, where there is an abuser who is constantly putting down another person. But I also feel that sexual abuse can be domestic. I mean, it happens in a household. It happens between, more often than not, people who know each other and are supposed to care about each other and look out for each other. So while sexual involves more of sexual activity, they're both domestic and they're both abuse. And they both seriously scar a person for a lifetime. So I think they're both one and the same almost. Which is why I promote both causes. It's hard not to talk about domestic abuse when you talk about sexual a lot of times.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw this to you, Bonita, and just to continue on that theme. You know, it was interesting in the conversation that I had. I'll go back to that because in this person's mind, there was this clear distinction. It was like, why are you talking about no means yes when it has nothing to do